Alpha India 6, Delta Golf, Joel in Florence.
N6YG, George and Lincoln.
Kilo Oscar 6, Delta Romeo Mike, Dudley, Roseville.
All right, so far we have some version of Joel AI6DG, George N6YG, Dudley KO6DRM. Who else would like to check in? KP4MD, are you going to transmit tonight? Copy. N6PGQ, are you out there? All right, well, so far there are 4 of us. This is Alpha Echo 6 Juliet Golf, James in Gold River. We're going to start with Joel AI6DG. Joel, are you ready to share an image?
Roger, roger. This is PD 120.
AI6DG, this is Alpha Echo 6 Juliet Golf. It looks like you're building a new home in Las Vegas, but let's ask George what he thinks. N6YG.
Well, good evening to the net. Yeah, well, there's construction, so I was trying to figure out if this was a demolition or if they were building something new. Well, let me have my monitor up for the satellites. All right. So, yeah, I don't know where this is at, I guess. You said it's Las Vegas. It might be. It's been decades since I've been out there, so I wouldn't know. Looks like old architecture, though, to me. I'll let Joel tell us what it is. N6YG.
Thanks, George. Joel, I did get the station ID, the repeater ID in the middle, but the image is pretty good quality. Dudley KO6DRM comments on Joel's photo.
Well, I didn't see the repeater ID in the middle. So maybe I missed that, or I don't know what's going on. It does look like a building under construction. Interesting how that they're putting the cladding on the top versus working from the top down. Hey, on the right side, on the lower half, I see gray and black horizontal lines. It almost looked like a dropout at first of some sort, but then I realized they're not actually horizontal black bits there, so that's actually part of the image. That would be my interpretation. What say you?
Joel, this is a building we can see through. Simon, who's watching on YouTube, is intrigued by that. AI6DG, tell us about this image.
Yeah, Las Vegas, the town of always changing. Nothing stays around forever there, and there's a lot of construction and deconstruction going on at the moment. And if any of you have ever stayed at the Tropicana, no more. This is the Tropicana in the middle of being deconstructed. This is one of the two tower wings. They've already completely torn apart, smashed, and moved away in dump trucks the cement structures of a parking structure and of two of the bungalow wings, which were the original or the oldest things still there, dating back to, I don't know, the 60s or the 50s. And yeah, it's kind of interesting watching them deconstruct these big towers. They're actually lifting small bobcats onto the floor, and these are the size of a small car, a front loader dump, and they can put attachments to them, and they're literally just driving up and down the floor, ripping out the floors, the walls, the mattresses, the furniture, and just running it to an edge and dumping it down the side of the building into a big pile on the bottom, and then at the bottom they're sorting through it and moving it somewhere else. And also pushing out and removing the outside cladding. And yes, they started at the bottom and are moving up. I'm not sure why. And that's actually a question that's been asked, because all the stuff that they dump that's falling down catches on the floors below it. They actually had a piece of really big construction equipment, one of those big excavators, rolling around in the pool area outside one of the bungalows, fall into an old septic tank of all things. So, can you imagine an abandoned septic tank from the 60s or 50s and what must be in it? So this is very well documented. Lots of people doing videos on this. Everything that happens in Vegas is on a video. Someone's going to blog it, stream it. And this video is actually, let me let it drop. A Raiders Nation fan, which apparently is the team that's supposed to be going into the stadium that's going to be built on this site, a baseball. The baseball team, a baseball stadium, supposedly. I mean, it's confusing because apparently it's not all firmly fixed to what all is happening yet. They've already started tearing this down in order to build a stadium for a team that they don't even know is moving there yet. But that's Vegas for you. Doesn't have to make sense. Back to net, AI6DG.
Thanks, Joel. Very interesting. They're not building it, they're taking it apart. That's really, really interesting. Any comments or questions for Joel?
That's, N6YG.
Go ahead, George.
Yeah, that's why I said it looked like older construction. It didn't look like modern construction. It was an older building. And it's a very interesting thing to see. There's got to be quite a bit of engineering involved in disassembling a building in that manner. They definitely have to have the old blueprints and construction information on it, right?
Yeah, you'd think so. Very interesting. Also, for those who are listening and know what AI6DG usually sounds like, he earlier explained to me that he has sort of a convoluted microphone Bluetooth setup today. So that's why he sounds the way he sounds. Any other comments or questions for Joel?
One quick comment.
Go ahead.
They're emptying the building out in order to do an implosion sometime in like October or November, or maybe even earlier, because they're moving really quick on clearing these floors out. And this is, I think, just about the second. I think this is the second to the oldest building still around, or casino still around. It's the only place that's older or of this age is Flamingo. Everyone else is either changed the name or gone away. Back to that DS6DG.
Okay, Joel. Well, that's really interesting. Thank you for that. This is James, Net Control for the River City Arc Slow Scan TV Net. We do this every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. to practice image transmission using our radios. Who else would like to check in tonight before we go to George? I didn't hear anybody. N6YG, you ready to transmit?
Let's find out. I have been doing a lot of experimenting with the satellites this week in different digital modes, so I'm not even sure I can send out a signal. I'm gonna try a tone real quick. And of course not. Here, give me a second here to. It has obviously decided that it wants to change sound cards. I've been running into that issue with Windows all of a sudden. Every time I start it or swap programs or something like that, it reallocates the sound cards. So I am going to send another tone real quick. Yeah, it's not keying up the radio, so I'm going to restart here. You can go on to the next one. Come back to me on the next one around.
All right, George. Good evening, Bill. N6HA is on RF, but he says that he has high SWR, which means he probably doesn't want to send images tonight. But hello, Bill. Okay, Dudley, it's your turn. KO6DRM. You ready to share an image?
I believe so. I was rehearsing early tonight on Simplex to my other radio, so we'll try it now.
right, Dudley, that's a really cool image. Is one of those balloons yours? Is that the New Mexico event? I have that slant, which I know I can clean up here, but I got a little bit of slant on the left side, but the quality of the image is very good, and it's a great photograph. Let's go to Joel, AI6DG, for comments.
Yeah, I noticed the slant starting, but it got corrected at some point down. So yeah, this is a very clean image, very few pops. I've got a line of something just below the call sign and right through the middle of the big balloon in the center. I wasn't listening, so I'm not sure what came up that did those. Something did. Lots of colored balloons, good color. Does that look like New Mexico? It doesn't really look like New Mexico to me. Maybe somewhere here in California. But beautiful day. And they're all having fun. Back to net, AI6DG.
Thanks, AI6DG. This is AE6JG. George, comment on Dudley's photo, N6YG.
Well, it came through, only a few pixel pops, and I see his call sign in there. I thought someone said something about a split in it, maybe. Maybe. No, I don't know if that's just the background or not. No, it comes over good. There's a little slant to it, but that's normal. You got to calibrate the sound card. Very, very good looking picture. Hot air balloons. But one of the few flying objects I just have no interest in ever getting in. I have this thing about fire and wicker baskets, so.
Sounds like we need to get you up there with your radio, George. Okay, Dudley, KO6DRM, tell us about this image, please.
Well, I suspect that this is in Reno, keeping with our Nevada theme so far. This is from my father-in-law from long ago, and I know that it's most likely Reno because my daughter actually likes to go out to the Reno balloon show. She's a young adult, but when she was a teen, she got turned on to that. She's never actually been up in a balloon, and neither have I. I agree with the wicker basket and fire situation, but I think by now they've figured it out, and I would love to take up my rig and see if I could make some contacts with a necessarily odd antenna you'd have to come up with. So I would like a little feedback on the slant. I'm using the program I'm using. I don't really know how to control that. So interested to hear some comments on that technical aspect of the transmission. But anyway, summary, the photo, I just thought it was interesting, and I like the colors, and hope to go out there someday myself to Reno for this balloon festival. Back to net.
Thanks, Dudley. George, N6YG, any bit of instruction for Dudley?
Yeah, if you, you'll notice, if are you using MMS TV, go over to the sync tab, and when I send a picture, across the bottom, underneath the sync tab, you'll see where it says phase, slant. There's a little smiley face, and then it says memory. So as my picture comes over, or as someone's pictures comes over, that's just click that smiley face. That'll do a high precision slant adjustment, and then press the mem button, and that'll automatically program your sound card offset to get you close, because it'll show you underneath there. You'll see it says something like 11025 or 4 hertz or something like that. That's the frequency of the sound card, and they're not perfect, so they'll be off a little bit. And the program actually kind of relies on the sound cards being, aligned to each other. So there you go, N6YG.
Thanks, George. Dudley, any questions?
No, thanks, George. That makes a lot of sense. I'm actually using QSS TV on Linux. I hope to get a Windows old laptop and fire it up and do that also. But thank you for that technical note.
QSSTV also has a similar feature. Just I use that quite a bit. I actually like it. So, all right, back to net. N6YG. Is it my turn?
As soon as I check for any more check-ins, anybody else like to join us? All right, N6YG, your turn.
All right, let's see if I got this switched over. We get a tone? Yeah, sounded like it.
Yeah, that worked.
All right, and PD 120, N6YG.
Well, George, very interesting image. It looks like the Tropicana pool in Las Vegas before they tore it apart, surrounded by vacuum tubes. Joel, comments, AI6DG.
Spent nuclear core uranium cores in their cooling pool. The blue is Chekhov radiation. I have no idea where this is, but yeah, you don't want to go swimming in that pool. And I hope it's well cooled. Back to net, the N6DG.
Thanks, Joel. Your audio quality is worse. Dudley, KO6DRM, go ahead.
Well, I thought of a swimming pool and immediately Hearst Castle, but I've been to Hearst Castle a bunch of times, and that ain't no Hearst Castle. And then I thought, well, it could be, nuclear fuel, but I thought that the nuclear fuel colored the water a slightly different blue, but I mean, what do I know? Okay, so pretty interesting. Really, thanks for the image.
Yeah, George, the image is very cool, the way the colors balance, etc. George, tell us about it, N6YG.
It's exactly what it is. It's what looks to be a fully loaded spent fuel cooling bond. There is a lot of very hot spent nuclear fuel in here. The blue glow is Chekhov radiation. I think that's how it's pronounced. Chekhov radiation. It's when the charged particles exceed the speed of light. So basically, electrons coming off the spent fuel is traveling faster than the speed of light through water, so it creates that glow. The brighter the glow, the hotter the fuel. In the corner, on the right-hand side, as you look up a little bit, you'll see it looks like a little sectioned-off area. That's where they load and unload the fuel. It's also one of the areas where this particular reset. They had some close calls in these pools, and that's one of the areas where they had a close call. They when they pull the fuel out, it's got to sit in here for 5 to 10 years before the daughter particles decay enough that they can pull the rods out and put them into dry cask storage. So they'll always be here. I think the United States is storing something like 196,000 metric tons of spent nuclear fuel, and so they drop a cask into that sectioned off area and then pick up a bundle of fuel rods and take them over there and drop them in. And this is a big, heavy cask, and they dropped one. Almost punctured a hole through the bottom of the pool, which would have been catastrophic. They would have lost the coolant, and once the rods become exposed, they spontaneously combust and start burning and releasing tremendous amounts of hydrogen and radiation. Very bad news. So that was I think they started to retrofit these and put doors. So they bring the fuel in, and then when they're lowering the cask in, they can shut off that sectioned off area. So in case they drop the cask, it does punch a hole through the pool. They don't lose all the coolant. Anyhow, back to Net.
Thanks, George. This is Alpha Echo 6 Juliet Golf. James, net control for the River City Arcs slow scan TV net. George, where is this located?
Hold on. I'm trying not to cough. So hold on. I apologize about that. I'm still, this respiratory thing is ticking on forever, and I get these coughing fits. And you know, off the top of my head, I don't remember exactly where this was. I had it just a second ago, and I forgot. I think this is in the East Coast, on the East Coast, and I believe this one has been decommissioned since they're working on it. And I'll remember it. You come back to me, and I'll remember it.
All right, George, thank you very much. Oh, that was a very cool image. Any questions for George before I send an image?
KO6, DRM.
Go ahead, Dudley.
Yeah, I work for SMUD, and we have, we call it our partially used fuel from Rancho Seco, sitting out there in dry storage, awaiting disposition by the owner of the fuel, which is the U.S. government. And so all the wet storage facilities were cleared off some years ago, and there's nothing out there now but the independent spent fuel installation there at Rancho Seco. So kind of interesting.
Yeah, I was involved in politics when Measure K was passed to close it. That is interesting, Dudley. Have you seen anything like this before, what George shared?
Not in real life, although I was right next to where this was happening. I wasn't allowed to go and actually see in there. I was working on a robotic device that they were using to move things around. But all that's been moved off to Texas at this point.
Very interesting technology. They moved that, and I'm sorry for jumping in. That's been quite some time ago that they moved all that fuel to dry cask storage out there, isn't it?
I don't know the exact time frame, but certainly by 2011, it was all secure in its current facility, and it was probably in some other interim things along the way. I mean, the Measure K passed in 1989, and right after that, they began decommissioning.
All right, well, thank you very much for that information. N6YG.
All right, gentlemen, let me just check to see if anybody else wants to join us. Anybody else want to check in? All right, I'm going to send an image, PD 120. Before we have you comment on the image I just sent, Simon on YouTube asked if we had discussed Cherenkov radiation. And Simon, if you're still listening, yes, we did. George explained to us that particles traveling beyond the speed of light create that blue hue. So thanks for noting that, Simon. All right, let's go from bottom to top. So we're going to go Dudley, George, Joel to comment on the image I just sent. KO6DRM, go ahead.
Well, I see pieces of lumber coming out. By the way, the transmission came through crystal clear. I have no defects at all in the image. I'm looking kind of carefully for that, and it came through very well. So looks like dimensional lumber coming out of a machine. I imagine on the left is something doing some cutting, and there's finished pieces heading to the right, perhaps being used in some sort of assembly after this. That's what I would say. Kind of interesting industrial view, and I really like the angles, the framing and the angles in the shot. So back to net, KO6DRM.
Thanks, Dudley. Appreciate that. George, N6YG.
I'm going to concur. It looks like dimensional lumber. It's a lumber mill. Are they treating this? Is that a conveyor belt? The picture came over great. I've got only a few pixel pops here and there, but overall, the picture came out looking really good.
Thanks, George. Joel.
Well, I want to borrow through the center of every single pixel across, so something happened, or repeater ID'd or something. A couple, probably 4x12. They see it's a big chunk of wood and really long. Those are probably 20, 25 foot long. I hesitate to call them boards because they're so big. A couple of tube vents, ventilation across the top and upper left. I'm assuming those maybe are for sawdust. What's the thing on the left is an enclosure for maybe a saw blade. In which case, I do hope with those panels open and that guy sitting there that someone's thrown the circuit breaker somewhere. And there's a big something on the right, extreme right. I'm wondering if that's getting cut from or if that's where they're going. Back to net AI-16G.
Good observations. Thanks for the comments on the perspective in the photo. Last week, my wife and I were camping up in Quincy, and we had an opportunity to tour the Sierra Pacific lumber mill. And this is part of the planing section after they split the logs, roughed it, and then they begin to cut the logs to order for Lowe's and Home Depot and Anderson Windows and everybody else. So there are different size pieces of wood coming off the line and being planed at this point. After this, they actually stamp a barcode on the end of them for some of the retailers who want that. The longest pieces they can do are 48 feet, and that's what these are. It's 48 feet long. The line had stopped. There's two guys there. There's actually a guy inside fixing something next to the guy in the yellow vest. It was a fascinating tour, and if anybody wants a job up in Quincy, they're looking for people, and they pay well. Any comments or questions?
KO6DRM.
Go ahead, Dudley.
Yeah, there are so many things to do. I'm talking with young adults, and they don't know what to do with their lives. Well, working in an interesting manufacturing facility like this must be really fascinating. Or working at a nuclear power fuel processing station or whatever that other facility was. There's a lot of cool things to do. Tell people about these things and get them out there, get them inspired to do something. You don't hear about these things in the classroom usually. So anyway, back to net.
Well, I agree with you completely, and they are desperate. They have about 270 people there working almost around the clock. They also have a facility in Lincoln, I think. Sierra Pacific is also the largest private landowner in the country. They also have, and Dudley, this would interest you, a 35 megawatt cogen plant. They use all the sawdust to power that. They only need 15 megawatts, so they sell the rest to PG&E. And in fact, during power safety shutoffs, they'll shut down operation and not power safety shutoffs. When we have the need for more power, they'll shift it to the grid if they need it. That's not so much of a problem for us in Northern California. But yeah, I agree with you. It's a great opportunity. They hire anybody. If you just got out of prison, if you just got out of school, if you're trying to find yourself, it's amazing watching these guys work. All right, any other comments or questions? All right, this is James, Alpha Echo 6 Juliet Golf, Net Control for the River City Arc Slow Scan TV Net. Any last comments or questions before I close the net?
This is K6SQI, Clay up in Grass Valley. I was wondering if I could sneak in.
Hello, Clay. Kilo 6 Sierra, Quebec, India. Is that right?
All except the India. Actually, it's Yankee.
Got it. K6SQY. Yeah, Clay, if you want to send an image, happy to have you.
Okay, this is it's going to be a little small. I couldn't figure out how to make it bigger, so it'll be PD50. But you guys might be entertained by this. I'll send a tone. Try that.
Yeah, that worked.
All right, K6SQI. Here we go.
Well, that looks like a bent propeller on a little boat. It was a little noisy, the image was a little noisy, and at the end it looks like a lost transmission or there was some interference. Let me ask for Joel to comment. AI6DG comments on Clay's image.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at it and figure out the scale. For instance, the structure behind the propeller, I guess that would be the rudder. How much are we looking for at? Maybe 10 feet from the bottom of it to the top? So that's a big propeller, but it's kind of hard to tell for sure because there's no scale. But that looks like a fancy, well-designed, high-efficiency propeller. I don't think it's bent. I think it's just a new and high efficiency. And who knows how big of a ship? Not terribly large, but definitely not small. Back to that AI6DG.
All right, thanks, Joel. N6YG.
Lots of pixel pops on that one. And I was going to say this is either some sort of fancy submarine propeller that, but it would never be that because the Navy covers the backs end of those submarines anytime they're out of the water to hide our top secret propeller technology to prevent or to reduce cavitation on the back sides of the blades, which sonar can detect very easily. Is that a rope ladder, or what is hanging off the side? So yeah, this is. Someone said it was a small ship. I can't see anything in here in scale to give me that. Although, yeah, I don't know. Anyhow, back to that N6YG.
Thanks, George. Yeah, I was being sarcastic when I said small ship, but maybe it is a small ship. We'll find out when we get to Clay. The thing that you're seeing as a ladder may be depth markers, measurement markers. Dudley, KO6DRM.
Yeah, it looks like, I believe the term is a screw, in fact, for a rather large vessel. Seeing the rust marks on there makes me believe that it's probably something that's not brand new. You know, I didn't get any, I got a few pixel pops, and along the right edge, it's a little fuzzy looking. I don't know what caused that. Maybe it's just my software. Anyway, back to net.
Thank you, KO6DRM. This is AE6JG. Clay, tell us about this image, please, K6SQY.
All right, this is K6SQY. So this is the Navy ship Mercy, so the hospital ship. Probably saw it around COVID time in the news a lot, and so this guy was up in dry dock up in Portland, and I was up there working, and I got to talking to them a little bit, and they came up with this prop because not for efficiency or to hide from the Russians. It's actually because of all the medical equipment on board, and so I guess the big problem was defibrillators don't work when there's a lot of vibrations. So I guess this is a very smooth boat, but thought I didn't just share with you guys and see what you thought. All right, K6SQY.
That's really interesting because the propeller doesn't look like it would work at all. But that's fascinating. Thanks for sharing that, Clay. Comments or questions for Clay? All right. Well, Joel, George, Dudley, and Clay, thanks for joining us tonight on the N6NA River City Arc Slow Scan TV net. I'm going to close the net now. I want to thank everybody who participated in tonight's Slow Scan TV net, including those who were watching on YouTube. We hope to see you again next Wednesday at 9 p.m. The net is officially closed at 9:47 p.m. This is James, Alpha Echo 6, Juliet Golf, wishing all of you a good evening.
Thank you for running the net. Did a great job tonight. N6YG.
Thanks, George. And Carol, KB4MD, thanks for running the YouTube. I know you're not feeling well. Hope you get better soon.